This episode is a departure from our normal ballistics study that we've been doing the last couple months, but it's certainly one you don't want to miss. We cover a bunch of different topics, from what it looks like to work in this industry on the media side, what that looks like internationally, and what it's like to hunt in wonderful places like the Himalayas, for example. You're going to enjoy this.
I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Swerzik, and I'm joined today, beside me, Marketing Director Neil Davies. Neil, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. So the guest on our show today, a gentleman that I met just a couple years ago, and my experience with him is just a couple years old. However, his involvement with Hornady is, way longer than that. So if you would, please help me in introducing Simon Barr to the show.
Yeah, so Simon and his company, Tweed Media, a lot of times that they are behind the scenes and a lot of things that are happening within the industry. A big component of what they've done for years is bring American brands to Europe. But then now that's kind of transcended and works, in every which way, from bringing European people into the American market as well. So, but yeah, Simon has been part of our extended family now for well over a decade, and at the end of the day, just a great friend to us. So, Simon, thanks for coming.
Oh, pleasure. I'm honoured. There's been some serious people on here. I sort of don't really feel like I'm up to it, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah.
But this is the norm. So this is the week between Dallas Safari Club show and SHOT Show. So Simon usually has a little trip over here in between the shows, kind of hangs out a little bit and gets to see everybody before we then go to the slog that is the SHOT Show for a week.
Yeah, well, and it's probably more so for you, Simon, but I know trade shows like the SHOT Show are a lot of work, more work than people quite understand, but it's also great, and as long as you've been in the industry, it's almost like you can't walk 10 feet without, oh, hey, there's so-and-so, and we did this thing, and how's that for you to come back for SHOT Show every year?
Oh, it's amazing. I think it'll be my 13th or 14th SHOT Show, and for a Brit, that's relatively unusual unless you have a business that requires you to come out here. And when I first came out here, I didn't really have a business that required me to come out here, but I knew America seemed like a really exciting prospect for the business that I had, Tweed Media, which is a marketing and PR agency, as Neil said, and we kind of specialize in communications. And I could see that the amount of American brands that needed better communications through Europe coming to SHOT Show would make more sense. So that journey of kind of 14 years worth of meeting people, understanding the industry better and better, having the pleasure of going hunting with a lot of people from different brands. The only brand I've ever worked with from an ammunition point of view is Hornady, and that came about. We started working with the UK distributor Edgar Brothers back in 2008, 2009. So birth of Creedmoor, if you can think that far back, and Super Performance, that kind of era. I remember all the the heavy marketing around that. So it's quite some time ago, and I've been lucky enough to hunt around the world, lots of stuff in Europe and farther than that. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little while. But I've seen the evolution of the products, the evolution of marketing, and I've been proud to be part of some of the kind of promotion and marketing of the Hornady products into the UK and into the wider kind of European battle space, if we want to call it that, which has been really exciting. And I think if you cut me, I bleed Hornady, actually, because I've been up mountains, I think, with Steve and with Jason and around the world, and they've both come and hunted, as has Neil on a number of occasions, into the UK. So we've become lucky enough good friends now. So it's sort of the business element's really important, and we're still very, very proud of our relationship with Hornady. But actually, I don't know how proud I am of my friendship with them. They can be quite challenging friends at times. But,
well, they're big personalities.
Yeah, they're big. No, I love them to bits, and I'm actually I was at the Dallas Safari Club, as Neil said last week, and I got ushered over by Steve to come and sit down. I won't try and imitate him. It would be very unfunny from a Brit to try and do that. Although he imitates me. Hello, Simon, every time he sees me. Hello, Simon, come and sit here. So I went and sat there, and he said, I'm going to Pakistan to shoot a markhor. Would you like to come with me and generate some content? So in March, I'm going to the Himalayas. I've been there twice before. And at different countries. I've been to the Nepalese, or the area of the Himalayas that Nepal is in. that make sense? Kind of,
Yeah.
I think. And India as well, foothills of the Himalayas. So this is on the very westerly edge of the Himalayas, or the Greater Himalayan Range. And I'm going with Steve. I'm going to carry his bags and take my camera. And
Sherpa.
Wow.
You'll be a
Sherpa
Yeah,
Simon.
yeah.
So
Wow. Well, what an opportunity.
mega.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people go shoot a Markhor, and just to be involved in that.
Completely. And, I've actually, and Steve was the person that made me realise last year sitting down at Dallas, there's more sitting down at the consumer hunting shows than at trade shows, I have to say. So there's
Sure.
more time to sit down and shoot the you-know-what when you're sitting there and chatting. And we had, I think it was a hunting catalogue for one of the outfitters, and in the back it's got all the sheep and all the goat species. I was like, damn, I've got a Capra Slam. So we worked out that I'd shot 12 goats around the world. So I'm no stranger to the mountain environment.
Right.
And, it's a funny thing, the idea of just accompanying someone and having the pleasure of being there. And, the trigger pool's really great, and that experience is fantastic. But Markhor is something, and it's such a conservation success story, just to be part of that and go and see. And for me, the best hunt I've ever done was in Nepal culturally. It was so interesting and so wildly different to my life in Scotland that I loved it so much. And I'm sure, no question, hunting in Pakistan with Steve will be, the element of Steve being there will be funny and interesting. And then obviously being in Pakistan in the Himalayas will be amazing. So,
A former British colony, that.
quite. I think most of the
Simon likes to point that out, as we know. Yes.
Yes, on the Victorian map, most of it was red.
Yeah,
that was including over here, but we'll leave that.
So I think maybe something for everybody that's watching or listening would be for you to maybe give us a little background about you and
Sure.
Tweed Media and how that all came to be and the evolution thereafter.
Yeah. So I'm the beauty behind it. The brains is my wife Selena, and
Might be both the beauty and the brains. Actually,
beauty is in the eye of the beholder on that one. Selena and I. So Selena was working for a 140-year-old shooting magazine called The Shooting Times in the UK.
and you should explain shooting versus.
Yeah. We call anything that is like reared game. So we rear a lot of 40 million. We release 40 million pheasants and partridges in the UK every year. If you hunt them, you go pheasant hunting in the US. We go pheasant shooting. It's something that's been reared, so you don't hunt it, you shoot it.
Okay.
So shooting is the big activity in the UK. Winged game is the way that people generally go and engage in a kind of your term hunting context.
Okay.
And hunting for us is what you do sitting on the back of a horse chasing a fox. So if you say you're going hunting, that people think you're going riding a horse and following some hounds and chasing foxes. So the term hunting or big game hunting doesn't really exist. We call it stalking. So it's kind of all a bit, arse about face. But because I've hunted internationally so much, I refer to it now as hunting. And I guess if you say to someone big game hunting in the UK, they'd get it. But stalking comes from the activity of hunting red stags in Scotland. You stalk them.
Okay.
So that's the actual activity is more a stalk than it is a hunt. A hunt for us would be horses, dogs chasing stuff. So
Got it.
That's the kind of way that goes down. So Selena worked for the Shooting Times, 140-year-old magazine. She was the news editor. It's a weekly magazine, so it comes out every week. And the key part of the magazine is the news at the front of it, the front 8 pages. And she was the news editor. So she had one of the most important positions in the industry, actually, because you're passing very important information around to everybody in the UK that's involved in the hunting or shooting industry and all the consumers that are involved in that as well. And I met her and I thought, wow, this super hot chick that's got this super high profile job. And I started dating her, and we, long story short, ended up marrying her. And then I convinced her to leave her job and that there would be a great opportunity for us to set up a media agency using the skill set that she had of receiving lots of press releases all the time from lots of brands that were not communicating themselves as well as they could be. And I had a media agency background, so I kind of combined skills of understanding how to help brands communicate to consumers better rather than just thinking about the sales channel. And that's a bit kind of technical and worky, but being able to create excitement and desire about products is kind of the marketing background that I had, and her understanding as a kind of copywriter and journalist. Those two things came together. And so we started that 15 years ago or so in the UK, picked up a few local clients in the UK, worked with Edgar Brothers, the distributor of lots of different brands, but one of them was Hornady. We still work with Hornady in the UK. And because of that relationship, we got to sit down and meet Neil to start with. Jens, the guy who works with the European, like the main distributor in Europe. And so our relationship led to us running some press events in the UK where a number of journalists came from Europe, and we'd have a representative from Hornady there to, if you like, host it. We'd lay the hunt on and organise everything. And we met Steve, Jason, Neil, etc. And so the relationship started to grow from there. So Tweed Media has had a great career or great journey of representing brands. Our kind of sweet spot is helping. Neil mentioned it earlier. Brands go over the pond either way. So helping a European brand get traction in the US. Obviously, it's a huge market, but it's very nuanced by comparison to Europe. And then helping big American brands that try and break through 26 different languages, 26 different cultures, 26 different ways of hunting.
It's an uphill battle.
Completely. And sometimes it's like, it's just too much hassle. We're not going to bother. But actually, there's 10 plus million hunters if you aggregate everybody together in Europe. So it's a market worth approaching. But if you break it down, divide that by 26 different countries, it starts to get quite complicated.
Different cultural nuances everywhere.
Yeah. So our job is to try and kind of make that mess more understandable, or we'll help to represent you, and we'll represent you through all of those different countries. So that's been very successful. 4 years ago, Selena and I bought our first print magazine, and we weren't too sure how it was going to work. We got offered it because we were doing so much PR work with print titles. Someone was ready to sort of exit. A guy in his late 60s, he'd set up a magazine called Field Sports Magazine. And we thought, how's it going to work having an agency and a magazine? So there was a sort of complication because there's almost a conflict of interest. So we had to kind of work out two separate teams working in very separate ways. Of course, Selena and I would be involved in both, but tactically, Selena would be doing agency work and I would be doing magazine work in the UK. Internationally, I do much more stuff with Tweed Media. So we had to kind of work out this way that certain clients wouldn't feel that someone was getting a better shout in the magazine than someone that wasn't a client. But we managed to negotiate that pretty well. 6 months after we bought that, we launched another magazine, Gundog Journal. And
these are all distributed in the UK?
Just in the UK. You can buy them overseas, but it's UK content for the UK customer, basically. Sure. And then in the summer last year, we bought another 5 magazines, Rifle Shooter, Sporting Shooter, Clay Shooter, Air Gunner, and Air Gun World. The pellet gun or air gun market is massive in the UK, 4 million active participants.
Wow.
It's non-licensed. A lot of our other firearms and shooting activities are licensed. So there's it's like it's a feeder drug into shooting. So it's a way that people come into firearms and shooting. So and we've got a big chunk of the market there, and we're kind of actively looking to consolidate the rest of the market in the media market. So we've got some late stage conversations at the moment where we're looking at trying to get some more media brands on board in the business. So we went from 3 full-time staff to 23 full-time staff in the summer last year. That's in the publishing company, and likely to grow more this year. So
good for you guys.
Lots going on.
There's a publishing wing of the company, basically, and then there's a PR and marketing side as well. So
yeah, we kind of keep the two quite separate. Tweed Media is over here, and then Field Sports Press, it's called, is over here. Separate management team, and Selena and I kind of flip between the both. But we try and make sure that there's a sort of church and state divide. So like I say, if you're a Tweed client, you aren't getting an unreasonable amount of publicity in the magazine. So that's the main thing.
On the marketing side, do you want to talk about any of the family of brands you kind of work with over here?
So we work with Leica, who are an optics company, European company based in Germany, lots of production in Germany, also produce high-quality premium optics in Portugal. And we've worked with them for not a dissimilar amount of time as Hornady, actually, well over a decade. And we've helped them with lots of product launches. They've just launched their Geovid Pro 42 line of products at the Dallas Safari Show. We helped with the launch. We created the video for that. So that was something we did, which was cool. We work with Walther. You'll be familiar with Walther. They make some fabulous pistols and other products. Help them with their PDP launch, which is a RIP performance duty pistol, which is a really, really solid product. We helped them with that 2 or 3 years ago. We work with the Outdoor Sportsman Group, so they launched, I know you'll be familiar with My Outdoor TV, which is their, if you like to make it very simple, their Netflix style on-demand
Yeah.
or streaming service, which is a subscription base. We helped them launch that overseas, and that's been, very successful for them. It's helped them go from a US-only business to an international business, and we help them with that. Who else do we work with?
Rigby,
of course, yeah. So John Rigby and Company, one of the grand old names in British gun making. That was rehabilitated. It was a box of papers in the back of someone's office and a name owned by some Americans, and it was bought by obviously it's a very, famous name in terms
synonymous with high quality
proprietary cartridges,
traditional.
And 10 years ago we got asked to sort of help out with the marketing, and I've sat, if you like, as head of marketing for Rigby since they came back, and that's again been a very, very successful road for them there.
and that fits well with Simon's background and personality. I mean, he's got to take a fantastic, well-known British brand and help bring it back to prominence. I mean, several big press events that took place there. I mean, it's fascinating. So Jim Corbett Rifles, you went to India, but then, and you should talk about that. The one cool thing that when I went there for the tour with Mark Newton was you can look through their logbook and you could see names of people that have bought rifles. And the one thing that I thought was very fascinating was, if you were maybe an aristocrat or from a prominent family in England, you were going to go to war, World War I, World War II, whatever the case might be. You weren't just going to buy an Enfield. You were going to get an Enfield made by Rigby, So that was interesting too. But
Yeah. So, with Rigby, just this is a fairly lengthy story if we go into the full detail, but probably the most famous bolt rifle, sporting rifle ever to be produced was owned by Colonel Jim Corbett. And if you haven't, if your listeners, watchers of the podcast haven't had the pleasure of reading Jim Corbett's books, it's also they're very
on the list, huh?
Yeah.
The Man-Eaters of Courmont.
Oh, sure.
It's that they are they're such easy reads. It's like the ultimate 1-2 hour plane ride read. It's broken into 5 volumes. And Jim Corbett lived in India, born in India, and he was an officer in the British Army out there. And when there was a cat that was a big problem, killing villagers, he'd be called in to go and deal with it. And he writes beautifully his account of chasing these specific cats down. There's one in particular called the man-eating tigress of Champawat. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. I think 436 people it's killed. Fact check me on that. You need a fact check.
Yeah.
But it's in the Guinness Book of World Records for the cat that's killed the most people.
Wow.
And he brought it to book. He managed to track it down, kill it, and this had terrorized an area of India for a period of time. And to thank him, the governor of the local province presented him with a Rigby bolt rifle, a 275 Rigby bolt rifle. And there's a silver shield engraved with the inscription presented to Colonel Jim Corbett for killing the man-eating tigress of Champawat, etc., from Sir James Hewitt, the whatever of the United Provinces.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. So this thing has been written about in his books, and we know that he was given this thing, and this rifle existed, and then suddenly, like Kaiser Sose, gone.
Yeah.
It just vanished in like the 1960s. And it then suddenly reappeared in a cupboard at his publisher, Oxford University Press, and it had no license, and it was going to be destroyed by the police because it's an illegally owned firearm, which is a serious thing in the UK. So we do have guns in the UK, but it's very seriously regulated, and there's lots of paperwork and so on. We can have guns. I've got lots of guns. I love shooting. There's a big, thriving shooting industry, but it's regulated. You have to have interviews from police to make sure that you're sound of mind and you have your safe checked and so on. But if you want one and you're a good guy, you can get one. So that's not the issue. But this gun was not owned by a good guy. It wasn't in a safe place. It was, on every level, it was bad. Someone was going to get in trouble for this. The publisher got in touch with Rigby, the maker of the rifle, and said, "We're in trouble. We found a gun."
I mean, as an aficionado or just the history is immense here. I'm glad that they had the forethought to contact Rigby. Because had they not,
said, I don't want to get in trouble.
Of course.
Cut it in half.
Because
that thing is legendary.
Yeah, it happens when grandfather's house gets someone passes away and their house is being kind of pre-sold and all the stuff's being taken out. Oh my God, here's a Luger. They'll find stuff from
that got from the war.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
There's amongst all the kind of Nazi daggers and there's a Luger and some ammunition. So that stuff happens, and there's a procedure that has to happen. And so instead of ringing the police, it got to Rigby. Rigby were able to put a case together. This is a kind of museum piece. It's historic and it's really important. There was no malice or anything, so they were able to rescue this really important historic
piece of history for sure.
100%. And there's chapters in the book where he talks about shooting specific cats, and he uses the rifle. He falls over. He falls down like a rocky cliff, and he's using the rifle as like a stick to sort of.
It's a rudder.
Yeah.
And there's and you can see dents. He talks about a specific dent in the side of the buttstock, and it's there, which is so cool. Without question, it is that rifle. And I was talking to Mark, the MD. Mark's a great friend of mine. We're godparents of each other's kids, and I didn't know him when I started working with him. He's become a really good friend. Over the 8-9 year period we've worked together. He's very close friend.
Mark Newton.
Mark Newton, the MD of Rigby. This was 5 or 6 years ago. We were talking about what could we do to celebrate the fact that this amazing historic artifact, it's like the Holy Grail for hunters, that it's been found. Like, what's the first thing you do if you found the Holy Grail? You'd probably take it to Jerusalem, wouldn't you? Like, well, we found the Holy Grail of hunting rifles. Let's take it to the place where he shot these cats. So, it's got to go back to India. Like, that's the right thing to do. But hunting's been banned since the partitioning with Pakistan and India. It's like 1960. So hunting's been banned. You can't own firearms. It just doesn't happen. So how are we going to do this? So we had to write letters to the Indian High Commission in London, the Home Office. Like, we had to go around the houses, 2 years worth of kind of campaigning, and a sizable donation of a Land Cruiser pickup that was going to go to the Jim Corbett National Park as a vet rapid reaction vehicle. So a good donation. Like, why do you want to come back? We want to give a donation to support conservation of the big cats there. And eventually it all got signed off and approved. We had to take the firing pin out. I get it. It's right thing to do. Yep. But we were able to take Jim Corbett's rifle back to India. Hadn't been there for a very long time. So it was a very cool thing to do. So we took it to multiple sites where he either shot a cat, not with that rifle, but there's a big account of it. But there's one place, Rudraprayag, which is where the confluence of two rivers that make the Ganges, the headwaters of the Ganges. And there was this leopard had killed, over a decade. It had completely terrorized Rudraprayag, which is this sort of town on the side, like foothills of the Himalayas. And he used this rifle to shoot the cat, and he used a very, very it was like 1920 something. Again, fact check me, but it's 100 years ago. The very first kind of flashlight. This is like, and he
torch.
He used it. I'm translating my English into
aluminium.
Aluminum. So there's an amazing account of it, and there's a monument where it says, this is the place where Jim Corbett killed the man. Cool. So, and we had the rifle back there, and the locals had created a ceremony. So there was 700 or 800 people.
Oh wow!
For this ceremony,
gets good here though.
And they had so Jim Corbett's birthday is a national holiday in India. He's treated as a absolute, even 100 years after, one of the biggest reserves or national parks is called the Jim Corbett National Park. So he was hunter turned conservationist, and he's one of the really celebrated people who had illustrious hunting career. Not a trophy hunter, he was providing a service.
He was taking care of problem
animals. It was just amazing to have so many people there to come and see the rifle, and it literally felt a bit like Turin's Shroud, Holy Grail, Ark. There were these sort of things. It's just
wasn't there some ancestors there of some people or something like that? What was the?
We got lots of weird things happened during
descendants. Sorry.
Lots of weird things. There was a descendant of someone who had been killed by the leopard.
Oh wow!
And it was I think it was a great grandchild, but they burst into tears when they saw the rifle. I mean, it was just this really moving experience. And they had 30 little kids sitting in the front, cross-legged, looking. It was just amazing. And they the colonel from the army base. Came and gave a speech, and Corbett just by chance was a colonel in the same regiment that was stationed in this hill barracks, and we got invited up to the hill barracks for afternoon tea at the officers' mess, and they all play bagpipes. There's so much sort of,
in India, nice.
But there's this sort of colonial footprint out there.
Yeah.
It felt more British than being in Britain, I have to be honest.
Wow.
But look, I mean, the whole thing. We should write a book about the stuff Rigby's done because it's absolutely amazing. Taking Corbetts Rifle back to India to those places, in the very tree that he sat and built his machine, there's still the wire wrapped around it from the machine
To hold him up there?
Because a machine is a platform that you would I don't know.
No, like in Ghost in the Darkness. Remember when he sits up in the top? He makes his own machine, I guess.
Yep.
And he sat there for a few nights,
Patterson.
and then eventually got the leopard, and freed the people from this terrible 10-year period of curfew.
400 and something.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people. I think the leopard was 2 something. The tiger was 4 something. But yeah, I mean,
the leopard had killed 200.
200 odd people,
Good grief.
and it was taking people out of their houses at night. So straw roofs, and they would just go in and just take someone out of their house. So they were just petrified. So I can see why Corbett's legend has turned him into a national hero.
Yeah, certainly.
And now his, like I say, his birthday is national holiday, public holiday. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the cool things I've been lucky enough to do in the industry. But we took a camera crew, we took photographers. I like taking photos. I'm not a professional photographer, but I like taking photos, and it's been.
You get paid to take photos.
Well,
so that would make you a professional.
We should devolve quickly, though, that if anybody's not familiar with Tweed Media, I mean, the images that I've seen just in my short time here at Hornady that you guys have produced, just
that's very, very
take
kind.
your breath away stuff.
That's very kind. I think
obviously,
good equipment, a lucky moment, a very fast shutter. So one of those shots will end up being good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and the background and some of these landscapes are just,
I think one of the things for me is you could put a really technically sound wedding photographer into a hunting environment, and his pictures would be rubbish. They'd be terrible, garbage. You wouldn't want to use them. You put me outside of an environment I'm really used to, and I wouldn't be able to deliver. Whereas in the mountains or in a hunting scenario, I know I'm very comfortable in that, and I know how to tell a story through a camera. So that feels like it just feels very natural to do that. I know the things that as a hunter I would want to see, and if you like using the photos to tell a narrative, I think that's really, really important. It's not just taking a technically good photograph, it's telling a story with the picture. That's very cliched to say, but I think it is actually.
Well, and I've said this before, there's a difference between taking a picture and making a photograph.
Yeah.
And the making of the photograph is understanding the context behind what the image is going to represent.
Yeah. I mean, and imagine the stuff I'm going to get with Steve in Pakistan. Wow. I mean, that's going to be insane.
Look at this. 100 free bullets when I buy these select Hornady reloading tools. Wow, 500 free bullets with certain Hornady reloading presses and kits. Well, what do they have? Let's get loaded.
There's no better time to stock your reloading bench. Choose from the most durable, precise, and convenient tools on the market and receive free bullets to get you loaded. Visit Hornady.com for further details.
Next time we get loaded, I'm buying.
So another time I hunted with Steve, we went to Russia together, to the Caucasus Mountains to shoot this crazy creature called a tur, T-U-R. And I think it classifies in the Capra and Ovis.
Yeah, it's a bit like an Aoudad kind of on its own.
Okay.
I think it's a bit Lord of the Rings, is what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's
Middle
sort
Earth.
Of, it's
Middle-earth.
a bit orc / goblin.
Yeah.
It's a very crazy looking creature. And it was such a tough hunt. It was one of the most. The year before I'd been to Nepal to hunt a blue sheep. Again, something that sounds like it's in Lord of the Rings. And a tar. I shot a Himalayan tar in the Himalayas. Also shot one in New Zealand. But getting to shoot one in its where it evolved, its natural habitat, for me was very special. Actually, it's one of the only times I've been moved almost to tears, where I shot a tar early in the morning, big long build up to it, physically very tough, 16,000 feet elevation, and sunrise on the Himalayas in the most physically challenging environment I've ever been in. You got 26 Sherpas carrying everything. They're just so friendly and lovely, and it was just like, this is really like taking my breath away. It was like a really serious moment.
There's a big, I would say a hefty amount of the population of the world that never sees anything from 16,000 feet.
No,
let alone
and
not on the ground.
It's
anyways.
amazing. And most of these guys, they're born around 10,000 feet, and
Yeah.
they're up and down.
Their bodies.
But yeah, that if anyone even to go. I've got 2 daughters.
What was the
5 and 7.
movie with the guy, the Nepalese, or was he? No, he was a Sherpa himself. The guy that was
13 Peaks.
13 Peaks. If anybody
Yeah,
wants
and
to watch that,
yeah,
gives
that's
you a good
pretty cool.
insight into the. I mean, because Sherpa is not just a term for people that carry
Yeah,
things.
no,
Sherpa is a
it's a
group of people.
It's
yeah.
a badass race of people.
Yeah, they
get it done.
That guy embodies that. Holy cow! It's an incredible movie.
he's a very serious dude. But yeah, no, Nepal, what a place! If you get the chance to visit, and I've got 2 daughters, 5 and 7. As soon as they're old enough, I'll take them on a trekking holiday there. It blew my mind, and
beautiful, probably, because I mean, you described it. You start down in kind of a jungly area, and then obviously you get up into alpine,
but above the tree line. But just being in Kathmandu, think how many, mountain climbing campaigns have been staged from Kathmandu. You feel like you're soaking up the history there. It's unbelievable. It's third world. It feels there's a sort of rustic chaos to it. There's a sort of melting pot of religion. It's very friendly. You don't feel like it's on top and you need to watch over your shoulder, which I felt like in some other cities, African cities, you can feel quite threatened. But in Kathmandu, it just feels it's very Buddhist and Hindu, and it's very, very relaxed and chilled. And there's this chaos, but it's sort of, I don't know, it sort of washes over you. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And then the trekking and the hiking is just like next level. We took a charter plane around Everest. I mean, who gets to do that? Who does this stuff?
Absolutely.
Like we've been so lucky in our industry to do some of this stuff. But we took a charter plane around Everest, and it was again like unbelievable, mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. And then when we went to the day we were going to start the hunt, we'd had like 3 or 4 days in Kathmandu. Helicopter down the Greater Himalayan Range, stopped in at Pokhara to refuel. And you're flying above 10,000 feet, so the pilot's got oxygen on, so you're aware of like the magnitude, and you see I think 4 of the biggest peaks in the world as you're flying down this, Annapurna and other ones. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So just as a trekking holiday, unbelievable. And ultimately, one of the things I like the most about hunting is the flora and fauna beyond the pursuit of whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And the people and the culture that you're around.
I absolutely love the pursuit. That's amazing. But actually, when you net it all down, if you go for a 2-week trip, how long's the actual hunt versus everything else? So if you don't like everything else, then you might not like those kind of like expedition hunts. And the expedition hunts are the ones that I really like doing, because I think they take you so far out of your comfort zone, so far away from your normal day to day. And you don't know, it's just amazing. I find it's like massive Control-Alt-Delete in my heart and mind. It's a big reset for sure, and it kind of helps me. I haven't done it. I haven't been on a really big one for. I was lucky. Went elk hunting with you last fall, which was 6 days of amazing scenery, but it was staying in quite comfortable accommodation.
Yeah, sure.
It was 3 meals a day. There was a very different thing. Whereas when you go kind of crazy backcountry stuff, it's you feel quite small and insignificant in that scenario, and that's a really good feeling. We evolved.
It's one thing to do it in North America, and it's another to do it somewhere like Nepal or
and
somewhere in Middle Earth.
If you didn't truly appreciate the entire experience, just the hunt wouldn't be enough to get you through that. If you're tired, you're climbing, you're not sleeping well, just the entire environment. One of my favorite sayings is the man that likes the journey will walk a lot further than the man that likes the destination.
Yeah, and you've got to enjoy that whole ride.
Absolutely.
Because it's, I forget where I was, but I've been fortunate to do some cool things too, and some of them have been right alongside Simon. So we've had some.
You've had 1 or 2, haven't we?
Some grand adventures, but sometimes you got to pinch yourself and look around at the scenery and go, huh. I mean, we were in southern France in the Alps, and boop, there's Mont Blanc just right over here.
That?
I mean, there's just some beautiful
places.
I have
to say, I think I was seeing 2 Mont Blancs at that moment, because it was after quite a late night. It seems to remember the night before. So, we'd been enjoying some French hospitality.
All those guys that were singing.
Yeah,
in a little French tavern.
Yeah.
Who is that guy? There was a guy. He's a friend of ours, and he would be dressed to the nines, smoking constantly. French guy, and drinking constantly, and singing into the wee hours of the morning, like out in the street and everything. Just
it was very funny.
Being living the life.
Up at 6 o'clock
Yeah,
before
fine.
it got like
Dressed again to the nines.
hardcore, ready for some alpinism, let's do it.
With his tie, his tweed outfit, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
Yeah. I think he was a jockey. Wasn't that the story? Like back in the day, he might have been a jockey
he was.
or something.
But great. I mean,
yeah, he was fantastic.
The amount of amazing stories like that, where it doesn't all surround hospitality in different countries, but sometimes that makes it quite amusing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's all part of the experience.
Yeah, it's all part of the
culture.
experience.
Normally American guys aren't. Well, I mean, I guess it depends where you are, but normally people aren't wearing a tweed suit and a tie till 3 a.m, singing songs out in the middle of the street. So
yeah, I'm just trying to think of some other amusing ones. You've been to Scotland.
And that's something we should talk about. So you're British.
So I was born and raised in England, an hour south of London, in a county called Sussex. But my dad is of Scottish heritage and has Scottish blood in him. He moved up to Scotland 30 years ago, and I followed him 10 years ago to the area where my ancestors are from, which is called the Borders. My surname's Barr, which is a Scottish surname. My middle name is Kerr, Kerr. It's a clan name for the area that we moved to. It was by chance.
Which we would say is Kerr.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Kerr. Kerr.
We've been going back and forth about two nations separated by a common language. Yeah.
Yeah, you must read a book. It's a really good book by a British journalist called John Sopel. It says, "If only they didn't speak English." it's about you guys. It's really good, actually. So I lived on the banks of the River Tweed, and I have a business called Tweed Media. That was complete coincidence, by the way. It wasn't a coincidence that it's a salmon fishing river. One of my real true passions. I love all outdoors activities. Salmon fishing is something that really gets under my skin, so I love my fishing. And there's no salmon fishing in England, really. Nothing of real volume. There's a few odd fish caught here and there if you're lucky, particularly in the south. Fabulous trout fishing, but salmon, these amazing migratory species that come into our freshwater and then go to sea and do their thing and then come back again. And I was just kind of like mesmerised by this. So the idea to go and live near where I could literally walk down to the river and try and fish for them was amazing. Yeah. So Tweed, the River Tweed was where we set up camp for seven and a bit years, and we now live in central Edinburgh, which is the capital city of Scotland. Which
cultural,
is
it's
cool
a
place. Yeah,
beautiful castle. Got the tattoo in the summer.
Yeah, so it's in the centre of it. You've got a big volcanic rock with there's been a settlement, and why wouldn't you have a settlement on it? It's like strategically like the coolest place to see everything around you. You've got an estuary, so. Yeah, you'd be able to control so much stuff around you. It's and almost unimpregnable. It's basically you don't need to put much fortification on it to be able to just kill anybody that's coming to try and get you.
Right on. Yeah, back in the day, it was a very tactical operation,
like the British.
Yes. Yeah. English.
The English. Pardon me. Sorry, the English.
The English. Yeah.
Britain is an island.
Yeah, you've got the castle on the top, and then there's a bit called the Old Town, which is like kind of from medieval to modern day, and then the area I live in is called the New Town, but that's deceptive because it's still 150 years old. Beautiful Georgian properties, cobbled streets, looks very sort of Mary Poppins, big wrought iron, beautiful.
And statues of poets all throughout the city.
Statues of poets, yeah, all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of got a bit of Harry Potter and a bit of Mary Poppins about it, Edinburgh. And it's great. I can get out to hunting areas in 15 minutes from the city centre, which is great. So,
nice.
I can be by grouse moors, by salmon rivers, by stalking roe deer 15 minutes from the city centre. So 500,000 people. It's not a big city, but it's very lovely. It's a cool place, and everybody that comes there, like, oh my god, Edinburgh's amazing, and that's why we moved up there. We really really like it, so that's cool. The Highlands is probably 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
So north from Edinburgh, and that's where you get red stags, which is the sort of classic, Scottish experience where you stay in a castle and gentleman's hunting, so you don't have to get up early. You have a nice breakfast, and then you casually head up the hill at about 9 o'clock in the morning, get your stag shot, put it on the back of a pony, and then come off the hill 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then go and sit in the bath and drink some whiskey. And that's whiskey. Yeah, that's whiskey with an EY,
not Scotch.
Yeah, and Scotch.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. Yeah. So Scotland's amazing. It has the only population of red grouse in Europe, so it's a species unique. You've got different grouse species in North America, and they're very popular to shoot. And if you're an owner of a grouse moor where they live, you'll try and manicure that area to be the absolute optimal conditions for them to breed. You can't rear them. They don't like being reared, so you have to just create the perfect balanced habitat for them so that they do their thing. Of course, good luck with the weather, but if it's all good, then they get driven to people standing in little bunkers called grouse butts, and the beaters push them over them and they'll shoot them. So it's pretty cool.
Sounds like a good time.
It's good fun, yeah. It is good fun. We've got, speaking of deer species in the UK, we've got 6 native species of deer. Could you think, Neil, you've been to the UK. What are they?
Native?
Native species.
Native? Or
classified as native.
Oh, because they've been there long enough now?
Not invasive, non-native.
Well, roe deer.
Yep.
Chinese water deer.
Yep.
Muntjac.
Yep.
Fallow.
Yep.
Red deer.
Yep.
I'm missing one. What's the other one?
Sika.
Sika. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm impressed.
Close. The Sika slipped my mind.
So I guess probably the truly indigenous species would have been roe deer, which is a cousin of the whitetail. So the native deer species. So red deer came on the ice bridge. Fallow deer came with the Romans. The roe deer have probably evolved there and been there all the time. And then there are 3 deer which are now classified as native, but clearly a Chinese water deer did not evolve there, nor the muntjac, nor the Sika deer. Although Sika deer is part of the Cervus genus, same as elk, and can interbreed with red deer, which is Cervus as well. So they have managed to populate very comfortably, and they're now doing very well. And there are some hybrids between red and Sika.
Are they sterile?
No, absolutely not.
So that animal can reproduce
and crossbreed with red deer.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and so they're very sneaky. So hunting them, they're very much like first light, last light. Whereas the red deer will be out on the hill all day. They're very different in habit.
Where'd the Sika come from? Manchuria?
So the Sika were brought over. I think all the Duke of Bedford was responsible for all of this. Not the current Duke. I think it was like the 6th or 7th Duke. He had a big animal park, and our forebears, when they were making that big red map of the world, were collecting things from around the world. But I know the package holiday didn't exist, so it wasn't. We want to take you to go and see these interesting creatures. We'll bring the creatures back, and you can come see them in my place. So like he would just create this huge safari park of the weird and wonderful. And 2 of the things that obviously survived the journey were the muntjac, which is probably the size of a Labrador as a deer, and the Chinese water deer, which is a very similar size. We've actually got one of the largest single populations of the Chinese water deer left. It's an endangered species in its natural habitat, and we've actually got an overpopulation of them, and so we can take a harvestable surplus every year, which is amazing.
And we should probably describe those things. So for some people that don't know, a muntjac has got teeth, like fangs, basically.
Yeah, like canines.
And canines, like pretty large.
Yes,
there's one in my office.
Yeah.
And then horns or antlers. And then a Chinese water deer, it's just the bucks, right?
No, females
too.
Yeah,
they have big, long fangs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like
so it's almost.
But no antlers.
So it's an antlerless deer with long canines.
Yeah.
And then you've got the muntjac, which has got smaller canines and small antlers, and then you've got like the roe deer that's got canines and then slightly bigger. Well, they're not massive by comparison.
Yeah, it's their.
I remember when
it's their ivories, basically.
We took Jason Hornady to hunt roe deer, and he shot a borderline medal, because we, like your Boone and Crockett system, we've got a measurement system, the CIC measurement system, and you have a bronze, silver, and gold. So if something's a medal buck, it's like a Booner. That's how you would classify it. So Jason shoots this, really good mature buck that's the Booner, medal quality, and he's like, "Is that it? Is that a young one? Is that And it's like, no, Jason, that's like a 7-year-old master buck. Like that's one of the best bucks.
But they are such cool creatures, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish somebody had brought them over here at some point, because they're a close relative to the whitetail.
They are a cousin. And they're the most widespread deer across the European continent.
Yeah.
So much the same as the whitetail is so widespread over here. The Roebuck is for, or roe deer, sorry, is for us. The cool thing about them is they're in hard antler out of the season that all of the other deer are. So they shed their antlers much, much earlier. So sort of October time, start growing them, and the season kicks in April. So we can hunt them from April through till October, and their rut is at the end of July. So you've got a male deer species that you can hunt all year round, which is amazing. So all the rest of ours are aligned with yours, which will be you hunt them in fall, whereas the roe deer, you've got spring and summer stalking, which is awesome. You've got something. You're getting up at like 3 a.m. Everything's complete. I mean, it's beautiful. You've done it.
It's good. The bluebells.
It's very magical. So
there's so much to hunt over there. So the other thing, like on the muntjac are kind of a tropical deer, and they are breeding 365 basically. And they can only live in the southern part of England, right?
No, it's now the most widespread deer species.
They've been
in the
north
UK.
now. Can they make it through the winter?
Yeah. It's now the most widespread. But we don't have really hard winters. Maybe up high, but where I live, it's on or around freezing. What's that in Fahrenheit?
32.
32.
Right, okay, yeah. So it's on or around 32. I don't know when you guys are going to get with the program and get metric. I think it's about time. Yeah. Well, actually saying that, this is something Neil and I joke about. I like shooting rifles a lot, and that's something I've done quite an amount of. And when you're at the range zeroing, you're in metric, and you're like, I'm going to zero 100 meters, but I'm going to hold an inch high. So we mix imperial and metric. So it's an inch high at 100 meters. You're like, how can you program that into any ballistics app? Like,
so they fill their vehicle up with petrol, and it's in liters.
Liters, right?
But when they're measuring distance, when they're driving, it's in miles.
Yeah, so in our car, if you're looking at efficiency, it's miles per gallon, but you're putting litres in.
Yeah.
So we're in this like very strange, all our road signs are in miles per hour, but we're taught in metric in school. So
and
we
still use things like stones and whatever else.
Yeah, stones and ounces.
Yeah. So some things
What we don't,
change.
it's kilos, like measured in kilos.
Not here.
No, I know. What do you measure?
But the Canadians
What do you measure it in, like big gulp cups? I forget what's that. What is it?
Ounces?
Yeah.
Ounces.
Yeah.
So, sorry. For the viewer out there, they don't know. There's a lot to this.
You said you do a lot of rifle shooting. Since you've been working
Can I
with
just say,
Hornady,
I shot my first PRS match in
well,
October
that's
last
what
year.
That
was awesome.
So I
loved it.
I was going to tee that up for you to talk about the evolution of Hornady products as you've seen them since you started working with us, and how you've seen that shooting culture in America and in Europe change, and where that's at now, and then culminate with obviously the PRS match.
I mean, so I love guns, I love shooting, I love hunting. I've been in and around firearms all my life, and it's sometimes I'd love to live in the US because there's so much opportunity to scratch that itch. Like everywhere you turn, there's another league of something that's been set up, or there's another. Like you guys are front running pretty much everything to do with sporting, firearm, participatory activities in the world. Like you name it. If there's a way of doing something cool with firearms, you've done it. If there's a league or a sport, so I think Hornady's been very much interwoven into that journey of the shooting sports industry, and actually has led in some respects. So with PRS, some of the products that Hornady's brought to the table. That's helped to improve the sport itself, or it's offered sport to a different level of competitor because the accuracy is improved. It's not only for the super elite. It means you can access it, you can shoot. You don't have to home load. You can shoot factory load. The factory loaded ammunition that you can buy to shoot in PRS, more than good enough.
Right.
And then if you want to go to the extreme level, like A-tips, like now we produce the very best projectile you could possibly use for match shooting. Like this is the next level of and so it's sort of, I watch from where I am and I'm just amazed at, absorbing the customer needs and desires and then developing product around that. That's always what, Hornady's so progressive on that, is listening to what the market wants and then creating the very best product in that category. It's not like we'll create a Me Too and just market it really well. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we'll front run it. We'll break the ice, and we'll be the one that all the Doppler stuff, like the heat shield tip, like that is like pushing boundaries, creating, new cartridges. Very lucky to shoot the 7mm PRC. You'd led me to believe I was the first person to shoot it out.
You were that I knew of at the time.
15 people have 15 people have come
Only
forward.
one.
Actually, I was told I was the first. Anyway, I got to go.
You're the prettiest girl at the prom.
Yeah, I was one of the first to shoot, and what a sort of a culmination of so many different technologies where Hornady's listened to the market. You've got a heat shield tip, you've got the most ballistically efficient 7mm cartridge ever developed, using all of the amazing technology that Hornady's got access to, and then packaging it up and marketing it really well and making it desirable and cool and all those things. Obviously, I'm part of that because I shot something with it and I was in a marketing campaign. But ultimately, from my point of view, Hornady is it is that sort of it's the opinion leader, it's the voice leader, it's then, you know, creating innovative solutions to problems that might be out there in the marketplace, or scratching itches for people, making cool products, things that people don't really need but are just cool. And I think that's also really good. So yeah, I mean, in that 15 years, I've seen, you know, multiple iterations, and some of the things that have been launched that I've seen launched are just, you know, stellar products that are like, you know, generational changing kind of shooting style products. 17 HMR, you know, like there's some big stuff that's dropped. 6.5 Creedmoor, you know, these are
Never
big.
heard of it.
The fun ones are always the ones that we do, and everybody goes, "Oh, I didn't know I needed that until you told me or until you showed it, and now I need it." You know, those are the fun ones.
Yeah,
that people just didn't think about.
Well, and to summarize everything you said very eloquently, it's the word innovation.
Yeah,
and that's something that, you know, having worked on the research and development team.
I think he said innovative.
Yeah,
I think you know, but like, I think you can show innovation, but I think it's you're not just innovating for innovation's sake. You're listening to the market and innovating around need rather than just creating stuff just so you've got a new product to launch.
Well, that's true.
How many home runs have you had with products where it like just fits the hole? It's not a square peg being pushed in with marketing dollars.
That's the wheel has been invented, so don't do that. You gotta come up with something else, right?
Yeah.
So let's do something that makes sense. But it all generally comes from our own interests and our passion for making something that's better for our own use, because that's the same thing that you're going to like and he's going to like and she's going to like.
The Hornady Fordoff is the most advanced ballistics calculator available on both app form on Android and Apple, on the Hornady website, as well as available in the Hornady Kestrel. If you're interested in ballistics or do any sort of medium to long range shooting where ballistic solutions are required, the app is free and it will give you the most accurate trajectory predictions possible.
One of the things that I really, really like about the business, and you know, we've worked with groups that have associations with other, like Edgar Brothers, for example. We're doing some stuff with Freedom and Vista, and there's ammo brands there. And there's a different CEO every 2 years. Like there's this turnaround of like senior management. So in terms of product development and direction and vision, and I'm not criticizing those businesses at all, but what I really like about Hornady is you've got the Hornady family who are deeply committed, you know, third generation committed to this sector, to understanding it, to, you know, Steve in his early 60s now. No, he's a bit older than that. I think he's in his early 70s now, but he's going to Pakistan to go hunting, you know, still
part of
as long as he can do it, he'll do it for, which
he could hang it
amazing.
up at any time, and
he doesn't, you know, he's and Jason, you know, his commitment to it is unwavering. He shot a Spanish slam of Ibex in December, you know, like they believe it, they love it. They're the real deal. It's not something that's just a line on a spreadsheet and a box in a warehouse.
Yeah, precisely.
This is something that they connect with their consumers through a shared passion. And I think that leads to this idea of listening to a market need and then innovating around that. And I think that's really, and I think if you've got this like high turnaround of senior management, you're never going to quite get that. And I think that's why Hornady, one of the reasons that Hornady
there's no doubt about
been
it.
able to lead that.
And I think we would all agree that, you know, I appreciate them allowing us to do our jobs. You know, that's a big deal. You know, they allow us to do our jobs, and they have always been just fantastic. And like you said, I mean, we don't come off the rails when we're going straight forward. That path, that's the way we go, and they're they're leading the charge typically.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a marketeer, and I know that Hornady is. I had it by a CEO of another American business, a business I respect. We were talking about Hornady, and he said, in terms of marketing, Hornady makes its own weather. Yeah. And I was like, that's a really cool thing to say, and that's all credit to you guys in the kind of comms and marketing team to you know, have other industry professionals at a senior level respect the marketing team to create its own weather. That's a big thing.
Yeah,
you know, it's high pressure because it means any new product launch has got to work, but off the back of the 7mm PLC, you should be pretty happy because that
turned out all right.
It turned out
okay.
For the first 3 months of its life.
It's done okay.
Done well.
No, it's cool, really good. So no, it's good. And you know, I guess the one challenge, and I know the international market's really, really important for Hornady. It's like again, I've worked with you guys for over a decade, and I've seen, you know, massive growth year on year on year on year, which compounding over 10 years. You know, where Hornady is now in Europe, compared to where it was when I first started. It's amazing.
But that's another one. So, again, like you said, we don't change CEOs every 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. So we stay on that path, and that's a thing that affects a lot of companies when it goes to export business. When things are tough over here, demand goes through the roof. A lot of those allocations that would be going to Europe or to elsewhere in the world get pulled back to try to meet that demand here.
Yeah.
Well, we maintain focus on making sure that we keep all of our customers happy.
Yeah.
And that's a commitment that is unwavering because our leadership doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a unified effort, and one of the things that I think really helps that fight is, at least when I was in the product development side of things, developing products specifically for the European market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cartridges and bullets and products from
Chamber
other manufacturers
designs
that are just regurgitated. Yep, we use these in America, so we'll just send that over to Europe.
Like sending American whitetail over to
yeah.
But it's great ammo.
It is great ammo, but it's nice that we took a very purposeful look at the cartridges that are popular, the cartridge designs that are popular, and what that looks like, and how can we bring the most accuracy out of those traditional chamberings, and what can we do from a bullet design that's going to give the European and the international hunter what they want, and we really catered products to them.
I'd say credit to Jens Tigges, who works with you very closely.
Yeah, he's a champion.
Yeah, he's a champion, and he really, really gets ballistics, and he really gets the European market. And I think it's really important to have someone like that from a very technical point of view to be able to feed that stuff back into you, and then you react to that. That's innovating around customer need. Exactly what I'm saying.
Yep.
And I think Jens has been a really good spokesperson, if you like, for the European hunter to be able to kind of not fight the case, but present the case that you then need to build something around. Which I think
thing that's also fascinating when you a lot of the European folks, it's a very mature market over there. The numbers don't fluctuate a whole lot. So when they look at the American market and how things can fluctuate and how we can add all sorts of new participants, that's just kind of interesting for them because it's not typically how it is over there.
What's the recreational shooting scene look like? And before we wrap this up, I'd like to get your answer to what does it look like in Europe, and then compare that to the PRS type and NRL hunter here.
We kind of went down
and then
went down the rabbit hole.
This is a podcast.
Yeah.
Went down the rabbit hole. Diverted.
I want your first PRS match. I want you to culminate with that.
I would say from a hunting point of view, as we said, like say 26 countries in Europe, it's all a bit different. People have got different styles of rifles, different caliber choices that they like using. It's because you've got chamois in this country, you've got moose in this country. You need different things for different environments. From a recreational shooting point of view, we don't have it as big as you guys have it, no question. It's a much smaller market.
But it is there.
100% it is there. And actually in the UK, there is a thriving PRS. I've investigated this subsequently. There is a PRS league. Yeah.
You got the bug now.
Yeah, there is a PRS league, and they recently had quite a serious competition. And what I really like about how PRS has been set up in the US is it's replicable as a format anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have someone from the US sort of come and here's how it goes. It's actually pretty straightforward. Once you understand the basic principles of it, anybody can have a go. I would say the much of the land in the UK and much of Europe, actually, there's not a lot of public land, and having the space to be able to have the kind of ranges that you've got here, there's less opportunity for that stuff, particularly owned privately.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of military ranges, but being able to get access and so on, it's much harder. So I actually feel that there might be a bigger opportunity to do the rimfire because you only really need 300 yards for that.
Yeah.
You can scale it back, and that's much more doable. So having a league of it's still the same skill set. It's still having now competed in a PRS match, I would still enjoy that just as much. Of course, shooting centre fire at those longer distances. People will find a way, and there is space to do it. It just needs commitment from people to want to do it, and it being made as easy as possible. I think it will be. We've got quite a few long-range venues where you've got steels and AR 500 steel plates and stuff in the UK. But it's really niche. You call it niche. You call it niche. But there are people that are into that. But it's not run as a kind of competitive league. And I don't know whether or not we've got so far. There's so many fewer rifle owners to be able to put into a league.
Oh, sure.
Which is a pity, because I think it's something people would really enjoy away from hunting. The bit that I really liked, I got the kind of hunting stuff, but then there's a sort of tactical piece, which was super cool. That's what I really liked about it, sort of blending time pressure, tactical shooting, and then some hunting skills all into this one kind of discipline. The NRL would be very interesting for me because I'm, first and foremost probably a hunter. Although I started my shooting career, competitive shooting, 22LR at school, and then I went to shoot 303 at Bisley. Bisley's a very storied shooting range, but it's very, very strict. It's just like
square range.
Square range. Like they won't deviate from that. They won't let you shoot steels. Like the danger template, blah blah blah. We have tried. Believe you me. So like you can do what you can do. So it's figuring out how you can work around those parameters. But the opportunity to sort of promote PRS and try and encourage people to look at it in a slightly different way. Like the fact that you go down to the ranch in Utah and you create your own PRS match. It's almost like what's the magic to be able to go and set up PRS stages? If we've got someone with an estate in Scotland, we call it an estate rather than ranch, but someone with an estate with the land to do it safely,
for sure.
Where you could set up a PRS match. It's so doable, but you sort of need a will to do that. So it might take a few years, but only in the last 2 or 3 years has the Creedmoor caught on in Europe, literally. Yeah. And it's like you've had that for over a decade, and it's super hot cartridge still. And I know there have been some more that people are excited about as well, but the Creedmoor is a serious staple. Mm-hmm. It's only really hit in the last 2 or 3 years. Now, it might be that PRS only really hits into in another 10 years' time, but it'll happen. I'm sure it will happen.
I think it will. And that's fun to think about because there's plenty of people that would enjoy shooting it. They just have to. There's things that have to change. People's perspective have to change about using the land and being able to shoot steel targets.
Sure.
I mean, where we were in the south of France, that'd be a fantastic place to go shoot.
Yeah.
So something like that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, look, having an international league would just be so awesome. And it's visually, it's cool. We made a little video about it, didn't we? Yeah. And it was, my first ever opportunity. It was.
Let's talk about that. The gap grind.
Gap grind.
Yeah.
So
a little plug for the grind.
Yeah, and props to everybody involved in that because. For someone that's not shot that discipline before, you're paired with it. So Neil was my pro, so you have an amateur.
Loosely.
Yeah, but you have an amateur and a pro paired together. So you've got someone that's, of course, you have to demonstrate a level of. You wouldn't be able to go along if it was your first time pulling the trigger on a rifle. So I think you need an aptitude for being able to use a rifle. But let's assume that you're safe and you know what you're doing with a rifle, but you've never shot PRS. Like this is so for you. You get the opportunity to. Compete and have not just your pro, but everybody's just sharing and passing on information. It's like this big sort of Passover of trying to bring this whole new group of people into
tribal knowledge.
Oh, it's amazing. It was so cool. And I found it the venue that it was held at. What a place. I mean, it is seriously,
Should we talk about your T-shirt and,
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to represent. I had a T-shirt. It was kind of a bit of a take on a MAGA T-shirt. It said, "Make America Great Britain Again."
Oh, never gonna happen.
So yeah, and
so now people know what we deal with.
Okay.
Yeah. So we and there was a guy there. What did he say? It was pretty funny from Georgia.
We probably shouldn't repeat it, but he wasn't having it.
But look, it was all tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
and,
he had fun.
240.
Because as I like to remind Simon, we beat them twice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we sort of ran off and did our own thing elsewhere for a bit, and now look at us.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
Now look at us all.
But as far as the competitive side goes, I mean, European, pistol shooting, that's definitely a thing. IPSC is a big part of the program.
Not in the UK. We're not allowed handguns.
Oh, I guess that's true. But the Germans obviously do that quite well.
Yeah.
But there's a Great Britain Palma team that's always been quite competitive.
Yeah, we've got, and we do have a very competitive 22LR Olympic team, and F class is very popular, and like the step from F class to PRS isn't that far. It isn't that far. So it's just having the venue that can do it and someone with a vision to want to. And it's way more fun. It's way less stuffy, and you can wear a baseball cap back to front, and it's cool. Whereas I have shot in some F-class matches, and it's much more stuffy and
a little more rigid. And like you mentioned, where you've got all those people at the gap grind, for example, and everybody is just casually
Yeah.
helping others. Oh, you try this bag, or
And honestly, there was a couple of things that and the firearms and just everything. I was George Gardner of GA Precision.
Yep.
He loaned me a rifle, amazing. I'd never shot a rifle like that before. Absolutely phenomenal. I was using Leica optics. I have a great relationship with Leica, but they've launched a PRS scope, and it was amazing to use that scope in action because we've obviously helped to communicate it, and then for me to be able to, obviously I've used lots and lots of scopes, but never a PRS scope in a PRS match. I've used it on the range, but never in a kind of time pressured situation where you're having to use the ballistic reticle and hold for things because you haven't got time to dial. And when you're actually in that live environment, you can really assess the value and quality of the product. And that was super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend anybody that has never shot PRS. It's the most welcoming. Massive country band in the evening. Maybe 1 or 2 beers, like it was all
just a good time all the way around. So you were using a George rifle. What cartridge were you shooting?
It was the 6mm GT, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Probably a 6 GT or
6 GT. 6 GT.
It was a 6 GT.
Yeah,
6 GT with 109 grain ELDM.
Yeah, and it was great. It was I mean, I had a couple of clean rounds, which was amazing to be able to do that. I had some where it was targets that I should have been easily able to do it, and for some reason flinched, rushed it, just didn't quite get my head in the zone, and you feel there's a challenge and there's lots of room to improve, which is why you go and do something like that. You want to get better and better each time you do it.
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know, addictive. I want to go and do more of it.
Just the way you have these preconceived notions going into it, and I remember this from my first few matches, and the first stage to the last stage, how much you're able to learn. Your first few matches, the learning curve between first stage to last stage on a 2-day match. Oh my gosh, you can book so much information just from doing it, and
totally.
It is addictive.
And again, it was like it's not being taken too seriously, so you feel like you've got people there that either pros aren't really competing hard, they're just trying to watch the AMs and make sure the AMs are getting it right and having fun. And it was just a really cool. I met some super cool people there.
Yep.
I had an amazing time. I love talking guns and ammo and hunting and stuff. And it's like that's the place to do that.
That's the place.
There's like 600 people all ready to talk about it.
Yeah,
exactly
it was fun because Simon was there with his British accent, so it was a nice novelty. On our,
yeah, I think I was the only one. So the only Brit in town. So. Yeah, everyone was very welcoming.
Rest of us have highly modified British accents.
Yeah, highly modified English language too.
Yeah,
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Improved.
We're the Ackley improved version of the English language.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, if only people knew. There's been 10+ years of us debating this.
Yeah, we have debated it. We've debated it last night. There'll be another debate tonight about it. It goes on and on.
But deep friendship and appreciation.
And guys, I'm super happy to work with you. It's a great thing. I'm proud to work with Hornady. This is and I hope it lasts for my lifetime in this industry because I'm really proud to have the association. And
likewise,
I'm not just saying it. The products are amazing, and the people that work in the business are amazing. So it's super cool. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah, much appreciated. I know on behalf of the Hornadys that we really enjoy working with you as well, and the return on investment is,
it's just easy.
Just seeing some of those images.
When you're friends with people, it's so much easier to do business with each other, And, But, Simon, those that are out there, again, like I said first when we started this, there's a lot of things that your company does behind the scenes that are transparent that nobody'd know that you did it. So a lot of our imagery, plenty of the videos that we've got out there and content like that has come from your company and some of the affiliations we have there. But and then obviously,
we're business to business. Really.
Yeah, it's business to business,
and so consumers, we never want the consumer to know our business name, Tweed Media. We would always put our client, in this case, Hornady. We are always trying to promote. If we image credits, we're always giving the image credit to the client, not to we're not trying to promote our business. It's about our clients getting the the PR.
So this is truly behind the scenes.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I appreciate
we lift the curtain up.
Lift the British curtain up.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate the perspective, and Neil, Simon, thanks for coming on the show, and again giving us that unique perspective that here as Americans with our Ackley improved language, we don't necessarily get to see it.
There's not that much between us, and the commonality is whether it's me talking to Steve, Jason, you guys, whoever. Like, we all love hunting, and that's a leveler. You can be in the bush with whoever, with guides that don't speak English. I'm sure when we're in Pakistan, hunting is a pretty universal language, you know.
Yep.
And if you're really passionate about it, it doesn't matter where you are in whatever business, whatever walk of life, you can all connect. And I think that's one of the nicest things about this sector, this industry, is that like you can connect with people at all walks of life, at all levels of success and seniority in the industry. If you're truly passionate about hunting, I think that's like the first step in creating some good relationships.
Yep.
So
Level the playing field.
yeah, totally.
Well,
the animal doesn't care who you are. They're going to treat you exactly the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah.
Fair enough. Guys, thanks for coming on the show. Everybody out there, hopefully you enjoyed this perspective from Simon's point of view. Appreciate you listening in, and we'll catch you on the next one.